98.7 WFGR. Kind of getting my funk on.
Nice.
Pretending I'm going to Electric Avenue in 1986, getting ready to rock out to some Kool in the Gang, you know? That's what I was doing.
Oh, man.
Remember Electric Avenue? Did you ever get in there?
You never went there.
Didn't
I was
you really?
aware of it. I never went there.
Yeah. It was a sight to see. It was right there by the train bridge on 28th Street.
Yeah, I knew exactly where it was. It was just
right across
I never
from.
went.
Oh, that was the corner back then, man. It had
Right.
It had Vinyl Solution, which everybody loved to shop at.
Of course.
Unless you were a kid from Sparta, then it was an intimidating thing because you had no idea who Morrissey was or why you should buy his records. And what were these shirts that said Echo and the Bunnymen? Never heard of them, but okay. But and then across the street from there was Electric Avenue, which was like the quintessential 80s club.
Oh, yeah. That was where everybody went but me. But
Neons, neon everywhere, mirrors everywhere. It was something to see.
It was the 80s experience.
It really was. It was like walking onto the set of Scarface. But then, just down the way there, toward the end of the 80s, 89, 90, and all that kind of stuff. Remember when Flip's Cafe was open?
Flip's Cafe was huge.
That was fun.
I went there a few times.
What I remember of it, anyway.
Southside Jimmy's was my first real bar in Grand Rapids that I went to on a regular basis.
Was it? I never fit in at Southside Jimmy's. I went there a couple of times, and we had a good time. And I knew the owner. I knew Jimmy Plakovich really well because I worked with him at the Orbit Room. I just didn't fit in. I don't know.
I had a cool. I liked the atmosphere.
It
there.
wasn't
It was
bad. I got there and it was just awkward for me. You know what I mean? I was used to the. Oh. You
were used to like Gippers or what was the?
I was used to Top
Magoo's?
of the Rock. I was used to Club Eastbrook. I was used to Magoo's maybe once a week.
It wasn't that different.
I'd stop into Magoo's on Sundays.
That was the only bar that was. We've talked about this before. Yeah. I'm sure I would have run into you. I ran into you at some point during the early 90s at Magoo's on a Sunday night when I had an 8 o'clock class in Kalamazoo the next day.
I never even got there till after 10. I'd get off the air. I'd be running 2 radio shows on tape. One was the New Music Revolution or Breakout or whatever Harris called that thing back then, and they'd feature a couple of CDs. And then the other thing I had to run on tape was Clam Bake.
Vaguely remember that.
Alternative radio type show.
I said I wasn't a big alternative guy back in the day.
I wasn't either. So I'd be sitting there listening to Clam Bake going, you got to be kidding me. There's booze at Magoo's and I have to sit through this? Oh.
They better have my drink ready.
And they would.
Of course.
10:15, I would stroll into Magoo's and there would be a Long Island iced tea every Sunday. But no, that Kool in the Gang brought back disco memories. And for some reason, Electric Avenue came to mind. That's the first thing.
Oh man! Speaking of Long Island iced teas, one of the places I used to go. Remember what was that hole in the wall bar on Division? You know what I'm talking about? It was
Reptile House.
Reptile House.
Yeah.
Yes,
dude. All you drank there was a skull.
The only bar I ever got kicked out of in my life was the Reptile House. I was 20. I think I was 22. My friend Bob, who was like 20 at the time, now he's a middle school principal.
Yeah.
And I gave him a sip of my Long Island iced tea, and one of the bouncers saw me.
Out you went.
With one of those,
I missed the Reptile House. I thought that was a really cool, really unique.
There was a weird vibe there.
You know what? It had a weird
bunch
vibe.
Of freaks.
It had a weird vibe, and it had a different fan base.
It was a freak fan base.
But if you think about it, they were doing the whole downtown scene long before downtown ever even emerged.
And that was a seedy section of downtown.
Back then it
was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember the first time I went to the Reptile House. I was literally thinking, should I put a pocket knife in my just to be on the safe side?
Oh yeah. And there was always some speaking of, we talked about the homeless situation earlier. Somebody was always asking for money.
Absolutely.
From broke college students.
Yep.
Yeah, like we have a buck. We spent our last buck on $1 shots.
I remember the Reptile House.
Yeah.
It was such a cool place. Once I finally went in there, it's like, okay, I get it. This is awesome.
That seems to me to be a place you wouldn't fit in because, like I said, the freaky freaks. There's usually at some point somebody would be doing like some stupid spoken word poetry or
all that stuff.
It was just.
But then then he also did a great job on bringing bands through. Yeah. Bands you wouldn't expect to find there, up-and-comers, that whole emerging 90s rock scene, they all made a stop through there. I remember one night they brought Anthrax in that place.
Really?
Oh, my God. Dude, they were to the roof. They were all the way to the ceiling with people.
Oh, yeah.
Literally, they were standing on top of the booths that ran along the side.
Yeah.
It was all the way to the roof with people in there for Anthrax.
I remember the first time I ever went in there thinking, good God, if my mom could see where I'm at right now.
I know, right?
That was the first bar I ever went into where it was like I felt like I didn't fit in.
Yeah.
It was one of those, this is just dirty and gross and it's weird, and it was an odd experience for me.
Well, I mean, to me though, it felt better because I went to Southside Jimmy's and it was like, oh, I don't have enough polo on to fit in here. That was like the Axe body spray capital of the
that was
early
pre-Axe
90s.
body. Yeah, that was the pre-Axe body spray. Yeah, when everybody had polo and everybody wore too much of it.
I have some Drakkar.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh, our drinking days. Those were the days, right?
Yep.
Four Seasons coming up. Queen is on the way. You stay tuned right here. 98.7 WFG.